Alright, what's going on, baseball fans? This is Jeremy Laracuente for the Baseball Banter Broadcast, and this is a very strange day here. This is Hall of Fame announcement day, and we found out that David Ortiz is the only one making it into the Hall of Fame this year as a player from the BBWAA Writers Ballot. Congratulations to David Ortiz, well deserved. You made my ballot. Now, that being said, the biggest thing that we have to discuss coming out of this is the fact that both Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens did not make the Hall of Fame on the writer's ballot. This was their 10th and final year, along with Curt Schilling and Sammy Sosa. Bonds and Clemens, however, to me, have been taking the brunt of the hit when it comes to the PED votes. Now, this is, whether you believe the PED system or not, this is absolutely a joke and a travesty for the National Baseball Hall of Fame. That the best of the best are enshrined. This is where you send people to understand the history of your game, to understand who the greatest of the greats are. That's what the National Baseball Hall of Fame and museum are supposed to be. However, when you keep out arguably the greatest hitter we've ever seen in Barry Bonds and arguably the greatest pitcher in Roger Clemens, now you really have to question whether or not this is truly the Hall of Fame or just the Hall of the Most Liked by the writers. Now, the other bone that I have to pick with this whole thing is, how do you keep them out of the Hall? But you have players like David Ortiz who are also on that same 2003 survey report, the Mitchell report, for using performance-enhancing drugs. Yes, I understand keeping out players that failed tests following the installment of the rules in 2004, i.e. my favorite player, Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez. I understand that. However, you have players that were already on that Mitchell report enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Mike Piazza, Jeff Bagwell, Ivan Rodriguez. All of these players were already considered to be a part of this steroid issue. They're already in. Bonds and Clemens, however, find themselves falling short on their 10th and final ballot. This, to me, is an absolute mark against the Hall of Fame and against the BBWAA. I think that, for the most part, the way that this voting system is done, I think that it has become a popularity contest, and because Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds did not have the personality of a guy like David Ortiz, that is what has kept them out of the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds had 7 MVPs. Roger Clemens had 7 Cy Young Awards. That in and of itself, if you cut it in half, which is what you would expect to have been their actual natural production, 3 Cy Young Awards for Roger Clemens and 3 MVPs for Barry Bonds would have automatically put them into the Hall of Fame. The simple fact that now here we are on their final year on the ballot. Typically, when people get a jump, a boost in their vote totals, they find themselves falling short. The fact is that this was a popularity contest from the writers. They did not like Barry Bonds and they did not like Roger Clemens, and that's why they find themselves not making it to the Hall of Fame this year. To me, this is an absolute joke. And just to pile on, because since we're already following this same kind of crazy train of thought, the fact that Pete Rose has not been reinstated to be able to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame, your greatest hitter in terms of pure hitting ability, with the most hits in your sport, something that will not be achieved. The closest we had was Ichiro, but his hits in Japan did not count. You will never see another player have as many hits as Pete Rose, and the fact that Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens are all not in the Hall of Fame calls into question whether this can actually be considered the Hall of Fame or just the Hall of the Most Liked. Now, I understand that when it comes to voting for PEDs, whether you're an actual BBWAA member or just a fan on Twitter or here on YouTube, there's a lot to be weighed out on both sides. But, that being said, there's very little doubt that even before performance-enhancing drug use for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, when they're suspected to have started using, they were surefire, no doubt Hall of Famers. This, to me, is why this is an absolutely dark cloud of a day for baseball and its hallowed legacy, its hallowed halls of the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Should Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens be in the Hall of Fame? Does this now diminish the Hall of Fame in your mind because they are not in it? Lump them in with Pete Rose as another one who should be in the Hall of Fame, who should be enshrined in what is supposed to be this home of baseball history. Let me know down in the comments, what are you feeling about this on this particular day? As I said, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds both made my official, unofficial Hall of Fame ballot. I will leave links to that video down in the show notes below. It came out earlier today in preparation for this vote, this announcement being made today. But again, this is just an absolutely lackluster and sad day for me. This should be a day where we should have been able to get David Ortiz, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens all inducted. And yet somehow, two of the greatest players of entire generation, two of the greatest players in the history of baseball, find themselves sitting on the outside. To me, this is an absolute joke and needs serious correction to how this whole process of the Hall of Fame gets done. But again, let me know your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. As always, keep it locked into the entire GLMG family with following the Granted Geek Show, We Sibs, and of course here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And we have launched a new website, baseballbanterbroadcast.com, where you can purchase Baseball Banter Broadcast merchandise. And just because I'm feeling generous on this day, feeling that they should have made it into the Hall of Fame, head over to baseballbanterbroadcast.com to purchase some new merchandise. Use the promo code BBRCHOF for a discount off Baseball Banter Broadcast merchandise. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Again, let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below, and we'll discuss it further. Keep it locked into the Baseball Banter Broadcast for the latest news, notes, and my personal thoughts, theories, and opinions on the game of Major League Baseball. Peace.